Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is my first 2D Zelda experience, and what a Zelda game to start on. This is the first mainline title in the series to star the person who's in the title of the series. Wow, that's crazy! But also, took them long enough. I remember when Nintendo first revealed this game, I had just finished playing Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, and I was ready to try out a more traditional Zelda experience. Hence why I decided to play this game instead of A Link to the Past or whatever. After discovering how amazing the Nintendo Switch Zelda games are, I was excited to try out the other games in the series, along with trying out any new games that come out, which brought me to picking up Echoes of Wisdom at launch. I played through the game, and I had a marvelous time exploring Hyrule all over again. I'm just glad that Nintendo finally gave us some representation. I mean, it's about time that we got a character that we can relate to. I can relate to. After finishing up development on the Link's Awakening remake on the Nintendo Switch, the developers decided to branch off their expansion of the dungeon editor in that game to create a whole new game. However, the developers of the remake, Grezzo, had never created a mainline Zelda title before, and quite frankly, no one else besides Nintendo has. The Legend of Zelda series is the second most prestigious series of Nintendo's, besides the Super Mario series, so they just won't pimp out this series to anyone. Oh! Koei Tecmo develops the spin-off series Hyrule Warriors, which Nintendo dug so much that they allowed the Age of Calamity and Age of Imprisonment games to be prequels to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom respectively. The series has crossed over with other series before, and Link popped up in Soul Calibur 2, but in terms of mainline titles, Nintendo has always developed the games. The director of Grezzo, Satoshi Terada, and Nintendo director Tomomi Sano consulted with Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma to create the latest mainline 2D Zelda title. With Grezzo developers struggling with balancing the new mechanics and Aonuma encouraging new creativity and innovation to the Zelda franchise, he asked Grezzo to work with Nintendo EPD, and this got the development of the game in full swing. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom was revealed to the world in the June 2024 Nintendo Direct, and women everywhere rejoiced that Zelda gets to save Hyrule without the aid of Link. Finally! I kid, but it is really cool to get to play as Zelda, but it almost didn't happen. What? Aonuma did reveal that Link was originally going to be who we play as, but he was afraid that players wouldn't use the new Echo mechanics in the game in favor of just sticking with old reliable. Allowing Zelda to be playable made it easier to justify the use of the new mechanics, while also satisfying people's interests to play as Zelda in a mainline game. The game was released on September 26, 2024, and it changed my life, for better or for worse. The game was received well by critics, and has sold a little over 4 million copies as of March 2025. A Zelda game can only be as good as its story, so let's hope the story's good. The game opens up with Link going up against Ganon to save Zelda, who is trapped in a crystal. Once Link defeats Ganon, he goes to save Zelda, but the staff that Ganon leaves behind opens up a rift to the Steel World, which Link falls into. Before he gets submerged, Link shoots the crystal Zelda is trapped in, which allows her to break free. Zelda runs out to Hyrule Field, and this is when I knew that I was in for an adventure. Zelda goes to Hyrule Castle to report what happened, but she has been framed by imposters of the king and his advisors for causing the rifts to open up all over Hyrule. Zelda is sent to the castle dungeon where she meets a mysterious fairy named Tri. Tri gives Zelda the Tri-Rod, which allows her to create echoes of objects and enemies that allow her to escape the prison cage. After evading guards on their way out of the dungeon, Zelda and Tri run into Impa, who believes that Zelda is innocent, but she cannot see who Zelda is talking to. She gives Zelda the swordsman's cloak to disguise herself like Sheik, and she allows them to escape the dungeon. Once they feel the sunshine, they go all around Hyrule, and Tri mends the rifts using its power. Eventually, Zelda goes back to Hyrule Castle and confronts Ganon. She defeats him, only for it to just be an imposter of Ganon. Before Zelda can dip out of the castle, a shadowy creature comes to grab her, but is stopped by Link. I know that guy! Once Zelda and Tri restore each goddess statue, the goddesses tell Zelda about the shadow creature she saw, whose name is Null. Null lives in the void that has existed since before reality itself. It craves to be the only talk of the town, so it destroys other life forms when they develop. The goddesses created the universe to seal Null in the void, which it did not like. It started creating rifts in the universe to try and break free, and that's where the Tris come in. The goddesses sent in the Tris to mend the rifts whenever they popped up. With this knowledge, the goddesses trust Zelda with the wisdom part of the prime energy, with Null stealing the power part of it, and the courage part of it creating a rift to Link. Zelda jumps in and gets to fight her Echo. Once she defeats her Echo, Null creates a rift that engulfs most of Hyrule. Zelda saves Link, and the two of them confront Null to defeat it once and for all. With the prime energy fully restored, the Tris restore all the rifts, and with their work completed, they go back to the goddesses. Zelda says goodbye to Tri, and she reunites with the King of Hyrule. Well, that was a great Kirby story, which must mean the game is great as well. Wait, what did I just say? After getting into the gameplay for a bit, the title of the game makes a whole lot more sense. You get to play as Zelda, and with the Tri-Rod gifted to you by Tri, you can create echoes of objects and enemies to get around all the obstacles standing in your way. Now, you can't just make echoes all willy-nilly. You can only create so much at a time, as Tri's power is limited at first. Each echo costs a certain amount of power, so you have to use your echoes the best you can to try and get through each area. You can also bind objects to move along with you to get through certain puzzles, which admittedly I struggled with hard at first, but I eventually figured it out. I'm not as dumb as you might think. Just more than you might think. Along with the echoes, Zelda can transform into her sword fighter form, which resembles Link. Ah, old reliable. However, you can only use it for a limited amount of time, so I only used it for certain boss battles and in a pinch situations, so it is not as reliable as you would want it to be. You can regain the energy needed for it by collecting energy orbs in the still world. Speaking of which, jumping into these rifts doesn't end in your timely death. Rather, with Tri's power, you can walk around in the still world. It is a jumbled mess that you can traverse with ease thanks to your echo abilities that you pick up throughout the game. The Kingdom of Hyrule has so many side quests that you can complete, with some being really beneficial. One that comes to mind is Dompe, where if you bring him different echoes, he can combine them to make automatons to bring more variety to your life. You can find various waypoints all over the place to travel to different points of Hyrule in a breeze. You can also ride around on horseback and test your skills in the horse race, which I was not the best at. You can also get various outfits and equipment to help yourself out in your quest. You can also find this funny guy just trying to run an honest business. You can give him an array of ingredients for him to turn into potions and smoothies that restore hearts, energy, and can buff you up. This guy gives Chef Bass a run for his money. You know, I've made worse. The game received great reviews from critics, with most praising the sense of freedom that the game gives. The main criticisms were from the frame rate drops, which I didn't really notice all too much that I can remember, and having to navigate this tiny menu to select what echo you want to use. However, director Satoshi Terada stated that this way players might try out different echoes that they may not have noticed before, considering there are over 100 to choose from. But none of these problems seem to affect sales all too much, as the game has sold over 4 million copies as of March 2025. I think this game will be looked back on as a pretty neat Zelda title. Grezzo did a great job developing the game, and I feel like Nintendo got themselves another great Zelda game for the Switch. I'm pretty happy with The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom being my first 2D Zelda game. The echo abilities are really fun to mess around with, and it honestly gave me Minecraft vibes with being able to make my own way to play through the game. This story is great for a Kirby game, and it's pretty good for a Zelda game as well. The music is lovely, the gameplay is solid, This game is an all-around fun experience. As a new Zelda fan, this game is wonderful, and I believe Zelda fans will eat this game up. I think it's safe to say that The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is a great game to call Zelda's first starring role in a mainline Zelda title. So are you happy now? I'll take that as a no.